Oh, live? Okay, good. If anyone's joining us, thank you for joining us. This morning we're talking about a special mitzvah of Achilas HaPoyel. So the past century, the rights of workers is something that really moves the world a lot. Taking paper down. More than just that. I mean, we're talking about radio for a sec there. In the city of New York is suing Starbucks. Suing who? Starbucks? Because there's one, they have a branch, Queens. There was a worker went around, convinced everyone to join a union. They fired him. Now the city is suing them. Because they can't operate in New York if they don't, if they don't respect the rights of the worker. So now the whole idea of the rights of workers seems to be very novel, maybe 1 century or 2 centuries old. I don't like to make every comparison to Torah, and there is, but the truth is that there's a lot of mitzvahs where the Torah really makes a very big deal out of how to treat workers. And again, in Torah, this chas v'shalom to say, that we know the ultimate of what the Eibishter is thinking, but we know that Chazal told us to not only learn the halacha, but also see the spirit of what the Eibishter wants from us, that we should be Rachmonim, and we should have Rachmonas on others. So there's a set of, a lot of it in Bava Metzia. Bava Metzia is this is the whole Pedic in Bava Metzia, what we're talking about today. So, for example, it's a very, not a suggestive thing. It's a mitzvah. It's people don't realize that. Right, you go to the cleaners, I'll pay you back. It's a mitzvah, same mitzvah loita say. It's not a joke. So the Eibishter has a whole set of rules, and then if you think of the spirit of it, the Eibishter wants that a person should treat the workers in a coveted way. And this is one of the mitzvahs, which is that you can't tell the worker, obviously there's a lot of details in it, and it's this, now that. This morning we spoke about the chalta v'loy moitzeitz, that he could work. When he works with the grapes, the Eibishter said he let him eat the grapes. But the Eibishter also turns around to the worker and tells him not to be a chazir, and not to take a couple of grapes and just, squeeze it and spit it out on the floor, or put the pulp all over the floor. Zaya mensch and pshat. We spoke this morning about the lomdus of achila and shtiya, and the Rogatchev, 2 ways of learning is the Mekinegin. We spoke about it this morning. I figured let's talk a sikh about this, and we'll learn about this. The truth is, David Ben Gurion, before he decided that he was a union organizer. When he was David Green, he was a union organizer. He was a union organizer. He was very connected to the unions in New York, Africa. He was a union organizer. I once read a biography of him, and it was in Yiddish. It said his mother, when he was young, his mother always said that that David is gonna be a Rosh Yeshiva. It said in the book that his father was a big Talmid Chacham. They're trying to compliment him, not say He was a big Talmud Chacham, but he was mezalzel in Narashem and Hogan. I need not say anymore. You know, there's a story from the Frierdiker Rebbe about the neshama that Hashem asked the Talmud of Chaim Rappaport to be. The whole thing was the Talmud of the Maral. That the problem was he was mechanech his kids. He was a moedik gadol b'Torah, but he was very mezalzel and Hogi Yisrael and things, and he was a big mekel and they had a son that went off the derech. It was a whole story. There's an unbelievable story. So I think to myself when I'm reading it. So Taka, the mother hopes he'll be a Rosh Yeshiva. The problem is the father gelacht from him in Hogi Yisrael. So his son became a union organizer. But the emphasis is that the Torah was very concerned about the rights of workers before the union came along 100 or 150 years ago. So let's learn about this.
So you come home, but that's Yeshiva Mensela.
Yeah. I don't think his mother was hoping for that. I think every Jewish mother wants not Rosh Mamishalah, she wants Rosh Yeshiva. What do you want for your kids? You want your kids to be Rosh Yeshiva or Rosh Mamishalah?
Maybe with my grandson, Yeshiva says one.
Right.
Second year.
Exactly. That's the nachas we have. Okay, let's read. It says, in the Parshas, Kisava b'cher menachav achaltanov in avshechel zaverka b'alkal yechol oisitei. The next pasuk says, Kisava b'kamas rayacha v'ketavta melilus b'yadecha b'cher mishletonome al kamas rayacha. Rashi says, Kisava b'ker rayacha b'per l'kosam adabe. Next pasuk it says, Kisava b'kamas rayacha b'per l'kosam adabe. There's three lamudim how we know in that we're talking. The pasuk doesn't say. It says, you walk into your friend's vineyard. It sounds, it sounds like a good society. You just walk wherever it feels and start eating the grapes. Oh, not so quick. Why? So there's three limudim. One from the Bavli, one the Yochanon, one in the Rambam. Bavli says, the pasuk says, Lo yisaver lo v'shemesh. It says Loshen Tova here, and over there is Loshen Tova. It's to tell you it's talking about a poil. Why does the Torah have to say it through Gzei Shava? It say the same word. So this is a little bit what we'll talk about. What the Torah wants to tell you, the gedder of what's the mitzvah. The Yerushalmi learns it differently. The Yerushalmi says, it says, you're not allowed to put in your own keli. What does it mean? Don't put it to your basket, put it in his basket. What does it mean? Obviously, that means it's a poil. In the same thing, Rambam has a different limit. The Rambam says in Hilchos Churus Reish Perek Yud Pasuk says, "Kisava v'kamas re'acham." Mipei Hashulam, the she'ein hakosu medaber elo b'socher. V'chi'ilu lo yisachore mihi tira lo sheyave v'kerem re'eyu b'kama shaloi shaloi medaite. V'lakachu oime kisava l'rishus ba'alam la'avoida toichel. Very rational, Rambam. He's saying, you find the Chazal a lot of times learn Lemudim B'Shas in the way of Gzei Shava Kamachem, and the Rambam. For example, the best example is Lo Savash L'Gedim B'Chalei Vimoy, that the Gemara goes through 3 dafim, a whole pilpul, how we know from this. Even Asher the Chumash brings limos, there's 3 psukim, the one to tell you Achila. No, the Rambam says, simple. Lo Yosor Es Achila Var Osar Es Abishul. The Rambam gives an example. It's the Lo Yosor Es Abbas. He said you can't marry your daughter's daughter. Obviously, you can't marry your daughter. It's a very rational Parshas. The Rambam is not arguing Chazal. The Rambam holds that this is the obvious. Chazal wanted to learn deeper. I get it. Want to be magda what the din is, or whatever the pshat. Obviously, the Rambam is not trying to. He's not a cool dude. He's gonna tell him. He thought that it's obvious. It's so poshut that Gemara didn't have to say it. Elamai, the Gemara wanted to give you a little more of an explanation, a little more of a thing. Same thing here. And the Rebbe says that it makes sense that the Rashi is learning like the Rambam. It doesn't. If you read the Rashi, you don't see a trace of the Gemara, the Bavli, the Yerushalmi in it. Rashi says Kisava b'chenem anecha, b'poel l'kosam adaber. Which words is he quoting from the pasuk? Kisava b'chenem anecha, and he's not. It makes sense that the Rashi who learns to go to like the Rambam. Pshat, Kisava b'chenem anecha. Who gives you the right to walk into a kerem? It says kerem. Why are you walking into a kerem? What are you doing there? The Rashi says, "B'poel l'kosam adaber." Same thing. Kisava b'chenem anecha. Avzu. Who are you to walk into someone's field? Since it's such a nice apostle, it's very rational. And the Rambam learns that way. So, but the Bavli and Yerushalmi have different language. Obviously, the Bavli and Yerushalmi thought that there was something special in the Zera Shabbat that explains the din. So the Rebbe says that perhaps the three svaras. So we'll make l'chaim soon. We'll definitely before we make l'chaim, we'll dedicate the shir for your father. What's your father's name? Gerish? Gerish or Gerishon? Gerish Ben? Okay. Okay. So let's like this. The Rebbe says there's three svaras. Usually in the yeshivas we learn Gavra and Chefta. The Rogatchover came along with Poil, Pul, and Ifa, like a third. There's three ways of looking at it. One way is that the Torah gave benefit. Just like today, you can't just have a worker and give whatever, $20 an hour, $18, $13, whatever it is. There is a concept of benefits that the government requires that employers should make sure that there's health coverage or right? So this is part of the compensation for the worker. It's not the tzedakah. It's part of the compensation. So one way of learning it is it's in the chefza. This is the payment. He works, so he gets $13 an hour plus health benefits plus this and that. So he also gets the benefit that he's allowed to eat when he's on the job. He can eat as much as he wants. A second way of looking at it is, it's not in the chefza, it's in the gavra. Just like the pasuk says, and the Gemara says, that the Chazal say, that the Torah is saying, this guy gave his life away for you. He was moist and nefesh. He wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he drives the milk truck and he's giving his whole neshama to you. You got to treat him well. So make sure. So it's not to do with with the revach you made. The fact that the person is zugestellt from Arbis, that Nikola Be'ilon, that he is being moist and nefesh to work for you. So you have to make sure the Be'yomet Hitan Schore. The same thing could be here, that because the guy dedicated himself so much, so therefore the Torah was mezakeh him with these paytas. And a third way of learning that Rebbe says is perhaps, right, that's the shaila. Is it part of his char for the avoid that he did, or is it just like when the Yom Hasidim in Chore, it's not extra char. It's just that the Eibush says because he was moist and nefesh for you, you have to make sure to give it the Yom. Same thing here. Because he's being moist and nefesh, the Eibush is giving him a matona that he gets the fruits. And a third way that Rebbe says is maybe like this. Not the first and not the second, not the Gavra, not the Chefta. It's just that it's because he has the Dim Poil, it's like a Oni. It's Matnas Anim. The person's an Oni. If he's called a Poil, he's Mamad Poil, so he is Zoichet to get these things. According to the, it's similar. It's just like no church like that. Right, that's exactly. The Parshas, that's what it is. Right. In Pshat, that's the Parshas, what it is. Similar to the Behemoth. But Zeh Gufa, we don't want him to be tortured. That's a Pshat. But in Halacha, we wanted to characterize this thing that we don't want him. So you could look at it in several ways. You could look at it, Torture. Never says, you're right. In Pshat, there is pasuk like the behemoth. But in halacha, you could say that. Then it says even in these halachas, it depends. It's not for sure. The spirit of the whole mitzvah teaches you to be mentioned to your workers.
Also, now they have a list what you can eat, what you can have.
No, if you want to eat, you have to pay the kid.
A lot of kosher places are very nice to their workers. Yeah, and it's very smart. A lot of kosher places are very, very nice to their workers.
In school where I walk in there, they have a list. What do you like to eat? Salmon. Pasta is no problem. Pizza is no problem. Cheap stuff.
Okay, so it makes sense. But I think a lot of kosher places are very they have. Right. So the Rebbe says like this. We find the Gemara has a question. The Gemara has a whole daf back and forth and a lot of nafkaminas. Hoyel mishalohi oichel, oy mishal shamayim oichel. Rashi says mishalohi oichel tesefes schar u'shezipah like toira, and mishal shamayim b'matnas gemilus chasodem kishor matnas aniyim. The Rebbe says Parshas, if you say like the first way we said that this is part of the payment, if you say that the third way, that because he has the din of a oni, a din of a foil, so the certain kusum that oni has a certain kusum of foil has, that's the other way the Gemara says. And if you say the middle way, that because he was moist and nefesh for the malabai, so here you could say a shaila is it this way or that way.
However, we know that if malabai says one pillow, you have to give it to the head.
But now this is not talking about an edit. Here we're talking a little different. Here we're talking about foil. It's true. It's different. So the Rebbe says perhaps you could say like this: that the three droshes in the Bavli, the Yerushalmi, and the Rambam are trying to explain. It's not just a drash. Trying to explain the Hagdor of the Din. Yerushalmi says, "Okay, but you put it in the kalim of your employer." So we're talking about his malach. The Torah is saying that you're working with grapes. So we're talking about the hagdod of the. You are working now, and you're putting grapes in the caleb shell.
So that's the special thing that you get. It's a kilo shtickle payment. The Rambam and the Rashi who say it sounds like because he's a poil. He has a din of a poil. And the Gemara who says that we learn it from Gzereshava from Loitava Alov Hashem. So it's because he was moist and nefesh to devote himself to you. And Takin, if you say that's a pshat, there's two ways of looking at it. Maybe it's a schar, and maybe it is min shemaim, and that's why Taka, the Bavli Lishitos said that the Bavli had a shaila, and there's a whole long Gemara. What can we learn from this Navodas Hashem? The Rebbe says like this: the Yerushalmi learns kilut's payment because that you're working, you're putting it into his kalim, so the Eibush was mazaka you as a payment. An extra benefit, so it's a payment. It's not a payment. And Lloyd Ash in the Rambam because he has the din of a poil, the Gemara holds this middle shita because there's moist and nefesh, similar to Beyomet Tzimtzari. They produce a shaila one way or the other way. So the Rebbe says that the Yidden are until the Rambam. There's a beautiful Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. The Rambam says, what is all this the Eibush is rewarding us with for the mitzvahs? The ultimate reward is Olam Haba. So what's the reward that we get now? The Rambam explains, and this is the beautiful Rambam in the end of Hilchos Tshuva, that's a very fundamental Rambam. Abisha says like this: if you're going to do my mitzvahs, I'm going to take away all the things that Chas V'Shalom distract a person not to mitzvahs. If a person is sick, or if a person doesn't have what to eat, so how can he do the mitzvahs? The Abisha says, if you're going to serve me and you're going to do the mitzvahs, I'm going to take away, I'm going to be maced all the moinim. I'll make sure that you're healthy. Lasa Torah Kagon Soiva, Visholem, Veribi Kesa, Veribi Zov, Kadeshanesha Pnuyim Lumba Bechochma Valatsas Mitzvahs, Kadeshaniska Lachailam Abba. Because if a person is not going to learn Torah, not going to do mitzvahs, he's not going to be Zoich, Lachailam Abba. So this is not the ultimate of the schar. So the Rebbe says like this. This is similar to the mitzvah here. There is what you have to pay the boil, but while he's working at you, he can eat the anav. Oilam haba is the payment but while you're working, he has to let you have the anav. Similar to that is the ultimate schar that the Eibush gives us is oilam haba. But when we're living and we're still working, in the middle of working, the Eibush, it's like the Mishnah says in Peah that we say every morning. That really the schar is oilam haba. But there's the paytas that a person could eat. The Rebbe says that also so like this. Now we understand why the pasuk says two separate things. And then So I mean, in a way, you would have thought that the Torah should say the other way around, because kama is tuah. Tuah is cheap. Anovim are expensive. And in the average restaurant, like you just heard, they don't care that the workers are going to eat cheap stuff. But the pasta, they don't care. But the fish and the meat, they don't want. So it makes sense that a balabayas will say, "Oh, you want to eat a couple of barley? Eat some barley, gesundheit. But if you want to eat a few clusters of grape, and he's planning to make one out of it. So really, the Torah should have went menakal lakov. It's first come and then kevin. But it's the Vimiramas that is Navoidus Hashem. What's the two types of the Shulchan Aruch says in Siman Reish Daim? We say burden the flesh that Rabbis are concerned. Al kol mashabras al hachis v'nefesh kol choy. Burden the flesh that Rabbis are concerned, and it's things that we must have in order to live, like water, bread. Lahachis b'hem nefesh kol choy is things which are grapes, fruits that are give us pleasure. There's two ways that a Yid could do Avodas Hashem. One is the Eibush said, "I'm Jewish. I have no choice. What can I do? I'm a Jew. I have to." The other one is to do it with pleasure, to do it like with excitement. That it's like unbelievable tainuk for me to do my Avodas Hashem. So the Torah says that that if a Yid serves Hashem, like going into a vineyard, it's full of tainuk, then versteht sich he can eat peiros on the way. Kamash Malona, a bigger chiddush, even if his avodas Hashem is not with pleasure, he's doing it because he's forcing himself and he's beating his yetzer. But Fort is the Fort Ayid, and he's doing avodas Hashem. So Fort deserves to eat the peiros. That's why we start with the mitzvah of Kedem Reyach and then Komas Reyach. And that's the pshat. Avzu, Rashi says, Avzu bepoel akosav medambe. Avzu, that I would think maybe only a Jew that serves Hashem with pleasure. So he gets to eat the fruits. But a person that serves Hashem not with pleasure, just because he feels forced to do it, maybe he shouldn't eat the peiros. So no, or any Jew, if he's doing mitzvahs, he gets to eat the peiros. Now there's three things that a person could get. As there's number one, there is the basics. There's lechem lechel beged milbush. Number two, there is like the Rambam says that the Eibush gives a yid in order to have a calmness. He gives him sholom, veribi kesef, veribi zov, and super duper things. And then there's the shleimus of not stam super duper. The Rambam says lo nisavu Yisrael v'chachamim limoisa Mashiach. So, why even in this time a person could be pony b'Torah b'chachmas? A person could be rich and healthy and be pony, but zaraya that In Moshe Mashiach, we can't even imagine what kind of calmness. You think you're sitting today, you're sitting with a sefer and you're calm with a coffee, with a seltzer, and Baruch Hashem, your mind is clear, Melen Geshmak. You have no idea what it means to learn calm and Geshmak. When Mashiach is going to come, you're going to realize what it means to sit and be calm and to learn with a Geshmak. And that's the third level. So like this. So it depends of the Rebbe. You could say that if that a person that the Rambam says that for a person's work, it's the Eibush that helps him. So if he's doing his avodas Hashem because he feels forced to do it, so Eibush makes sure he has beged lechem lechel beged lilbish. If he does it with tainu, so the Eibush gives him more. So the Eibush gives that he should have and Ibu Kesef Azov and Shalom. And when a Yid does avodas Hashem, not for himself, not lifnim Meshur Zadeh, but he doesn't feel himself as a Metzias. He does it totally for avoid of the Eibishter. So then he's to the third level, which is Taka Dinyan of B'Moisa Mashiach. Then the Rebbe says that Emma says Apich Chassidus. What does it mean that a person has pleasure in avodas Hashem? The Chassidus says that there's such a thing as a poil nema, that he's so devoted to his balabayas. When he sees his balabayas, he's enjoying it, smiles. The Eved feels happy from that. When a Yid says, the Eibishter says, Nachas Ruach Lefonai Shamarti V'Naseh Etzoni, a Yid feels the Nachas Ruach of the Eibishter. So that's the pshat. Achilles Poyel Memeleches Balabayis. He's feeling the pleasure in the Maloch of the Eibishter. When he's doing his avodah Hashem, he's feeling the Eibishter's pleasure. So the Eibishter Halfen Take that we're before in the Chodesh Elul, and the Chodesh Elul is when we read always Parshas Seitzei. So throughout tonight I got so Verbringen the COVID Aaron's father Tovshin Memches, and the Rebbe stood up from Shiva that the Rebbe gave money that they should make a Verbringen, and he insisted that the Verbringen should be in his house. So from then, Chabad has minhag in the last day. So Shlomo brought this. We're talking now. What was the Sicha we learned tonight? So Shlomo brought this. We learned tonight a Sicha about the idea of the avoid of the Yid, that the ultimate is the Olam Haba. Alamai, there's the schar that the Yid gets while he's the extra, the fringe benefits, the extra. So definitely, Mitzvah Shem Yifal will have a lichtig Gan Eden. The fringe benefit will be they'll have a lot of nachas Mitzvah Shem. Time, we still have a little time, so I'll tell a story. I'll bring it, so I'll tell a story. Let's make l'chaim again. Make l'chaim again. Tell a story. We're talking about a worker, so let's tell a story about the Shkoyach. L'chaim Aaron. L'chaim.
Fancy, l'chaim, fancy. So my slide about
Hij dus gekomen, maar ik mag dat verbrengen. Dat
You just get off the show today. So
Amen. L'chaim. We're talking about tonight about a poil, about investment, and about schar. Story from the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, one of his grandchildren got married. The Rebbe called him in. He said, "You got the dunya?" He said, "Yeah, you got a very large amount. They had a lot of money." So the Alter Rebbe said, "No, what are you planning to do with your money?" So he said he found an unbelievable Oisher that's now planning to invest in some very good investment, and he's investing the money with this Oisher, and he hopes to make a lot of money. Alter Rebbe says, "How do you know that maybe you can even lose your keren? Who says you're going to make? Maybe you're going to lose." He said, "No, he looked into the business, and it's a Ish Meheman, and he knows it's a very good business." Alter Rebbe says, "I could suggest for you a better business." He says, "Here, you see this box? It's a very good business." In other words, this box is set for the Alter Rebbe. That wasn't the grandson understood what he means. You know that the Alter Rebbe got a big nadunya when he got married, and he made one condition. He was very young when he got married. One condition that his shver will not tell him how to invest the money. He can do whatever he wants with the money. The shver was masking. Yeah, every nickel and dime, because Alter Rebbe had a shita that was based really on shittas of Al Shem Tov. At that time, Eden there was a lot of Eden crowded in the big cities, and they weren't having parnasa. And what could a Jew do already in those days? The Baal Shem Tov had a shita that Eden should go move out, and they should cultivate. They should have a farm. They should have a shank. But how do you go have a shank and a farm? You don't have a nickel. Eden were very poor, so the Alter Rebbe had spent all the money of his nadunya, and he gave it to many families, and he looked into it. They should go. Dead. They should go out, and this one should start a farm and take it back. Huh?
You didn't take it back.
No.
It was a loan.
It wasn't a loan. He gave them money to start it off. He gave away his own dunya. It was b'shita. We discussed it. Yeah, the Alter Rebbe, as we know, lived very simple. He didn't care. That's what he wanted to do with his nadunya. His grandson didn't want to do that. He knew already. He knew what his grandfather has in mind. So he was not masking. Okay. Problem was that the Alter Rebbe was right, that the business didn't go good, and not only didn't make money, he lost every nickel and dime. So sometime later, the Alter Rebbe called him in and says, "No, how's the business going?" So they told him the bitter truth.
Chaval, I didn't listen.
Yeah, he said, "Chaval, I didn't listen." The Alter Rebbe said, "What can I tell you? I'll tell you a story." He said that once, when I was very young, I was traveling to the market, and it was the middle of the winter, but I wanted to go, and we got lost in the way, and it was very, very cold, and Poshet, we came into a situation of sakona. And Rahman al-Islam, if we didn't get out of we would have froze. And Chaz Hashem, we were still alive, and we got out of the forest, and we see a light, and we stopped. I couldn't walk anymore. The Balagola was able to walk. He picked me up and he pulled me in. Inside there was an old Yid. He ran a shank, and he took alcohol. He rubbed it all over my body. Imamish, it was Machai and Nefashis to me. So when I opened my eyes, I thanked him.
Shank was in the hotel.
Yeah. And the Alter Rebbe says, I asked him, how many years are you living here? He says, 50 years. Says the Alter Rebbe, and you have a minyan here? He says, no, I'm the only Jew living here. So when do you have a minyan? He says, I go to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I go to the big city. So the Alter Rebbe says, so why don't you live in the big city? You can go down with the minyan every day. So he said, where am I going to have parnasa? So the Alter Rebbe said, no, for 50 families, 100 families, the Eibishter can give parnasa. And for 101 families, the Eibishter can't give parnasa. The person asked the Alter Rebbe, who are you? So he said, I'm a Talmud of the Maggid of Mizrich. He said, okay, thank you very much. And Alter Rebbe said 2 hours later, he saw that there were wagons that were all filled up with the furniture. And he said, where are you going? He said, didn't you tell me I should move to the city? I'm moving. So the Alter Rebbe said, I was a young kid, and just because he heard that I'm a Talmud of the Maggid, so he listened. You're my grandson, so why are you not listening to me?
Gave it to him, right?
Yeah.
How
Good.
old was he when he got married?
He's very young. Close. I think that time was
15.
yeah. So l'chaim. We should all make good investments for this year, and the Eibusher should give us take bebona, chaya, mezoyna, nevicha, ksivot zimatoiva, just like we learned in the Sicha now, that the Eibusher gives take. There is the Keren Kayemis, but there is the Pedis, and the Pedis is not the part of the Pedis is just a side thing to help us to machazak our hands to the mitzvahs. And take then when we make achlotas tovus this year, we're going to utilize the year to its maximum. And avodas Hashem that we think that we can't, that we think we're so preoccupied, we're so busy. But when we make achlota tovah that this year we're going to use out the year, avodas Hashem, the Eibusher will give us the peace of mind. The Eibusher will give us what we need. The taka, just like like the Alter Rebbe told us, Anikel, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Invest with me. We should invest with the Rebbeinu Shalom. And Mela, we shouldn't have any daigas. We should be able to be Tuponu, Batoira, Bachachmasai, and we should all have Exivich, Matova, Bachal Yisrael, Shana, Tevam, Zuka. Yeah, the Rebbe always wanted they should sing more Rebbe the Kindergarten, but this is a very strong Siddush. It's called the Zeb in the Hearts because it has like the idea of tshuva. Because at the beginning there's a little bit of merirus, and then it ends up with the tikva and bitoch. It's a very what do you mean? It's Chabad Nigan, Atik Yom. It's called in Jebin, the city of Jebin. There were a lot of oivdim. They were considered not such kept mentioned, but there were big oivdei Hashem, Shtarkaton and Davina and Avoida, and this was a niggin that was composed in the city of Jebin. It's called the Jebin Hearts, the heart of Jebin. Kyle die fake. Die fake. Biskili. Biskili. Achai sirayasi. Yainasi namasi. Biskili. Achai sirayasi. Yainasi. Ya 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 ya. Yeah, 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 yeah. Is it wrong on the side? Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 did yeah, yeah, da, yeah, da, yeah, da, 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 yeah, 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 da, da, yeah, 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 da, da, yeah, yeah, da, da, yeah, yeah, my, da, da, yeah, yeah, da, I, da, 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 my, da, 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 yeah, da, da, da. Yeah, 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 la, 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 bye, la, la, la. Ay, 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 la, bye, la, 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 la. Chaim, Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, third and sixth. You made a good investment. Amen, amen. Okay. If anyone that's joining